Financial support for the production of Issues in Education is provided by the Florida State University License Plate. Your FSU license plate supports scholarships for students who enrich and contribute to our communities. Special programs, gift certificates, and rebates for first-time buyers online at fsu.edu/mytag.
Coming up today on Issues in Education, the 50th anniversary of integration at FSU. We look at the past, the present, and the events planned to celebrate the occasion. Welcome to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, alongside my co-host, the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron. 2012 marks 50 years since the integration of FSU's campus. To mark the occasion, a number of events have been planned for April 19th through the 21st. They start with an expected record-breaking gathering on FSU's campus and culminates with the celebrated poet Maya Angelou speaking at the Civic Center. We're going to preview those events and what it was like to be at FSU in the early years of the transition, as well as the current atmosphere on campus today. Joining us today is FSU Vice President for University Relations, Liz Maryanski. Also with us is Doby Flowers, FSU class of 1971. She was FSU's first African-American homecoming queen. And Kiaira McCoy, President of FSU's Black Student Union. Thank you all for joining us today.
So Doby, let's go back to your beginnings at FSU. Why did you pick Florida State?
Well, to be perfectly frank, I am one of 6 children in a family with who are a year and a half apart. So to think that all of us could have our dreams to leave home and attend college was just not possible economically. And I chose Florida State because it's not only in line with what the movement was and the necessity to step up and desegregate institutions, but it was the closest thing that was different, as if I was going away to college, because really FAMU raised me. My mother went to FAMU, my father went to FAMU, my grandmother went to FAMU. And as a child, I went to FAMU even starting in 7th grade, taking math, etc. So this was different, but it also served the purpose of continuing the civil rights.
Now this was just after the time of integration, and it occurred just a couple of years earlier. What was the atmosphere like? I'm really curious to see whether you felt welcome, and I'm also curious, did you know you were going to be successful?
Well, I'll take whether I felt welcome or not first. I never even questioned whether I would be welcome, because that was not one of my goals. Everything in my upbringing said I would not be welcome, and I had to be prepared for that case to be. So that was not even in whether I was going to be welcome or not. Given that I grew up in Tallahassee in the Deep South, doing desegregation, I did not expect to be welcome. I'm sure I may have been welcome, but it just never was a goal or even an issue for me. As far as whether I thought I would be successful or not, that was never a question to me either. I grew up in a society and in a culture and a community that supported scholastic achievement. My parents were always, there's 6 of us again, and a lot of people who meet us say, well, you 6 only children. My parents did a lot to cultivate us scholastically and in a way, and in our entire community. I was thinking about the movie The Help, and I almost forgot that a lot of my friends, in my mind's eye, I walked down my street, and my mother was a teacher, there was another teacher, and everybody else were maids, but all the children went to college. That was the environment, that was the goal of our community, to do better, and we were driven to do better.
When you look at what other states were dealing with integration and what Florida dealt with, some people, well, integration FSU wasn't that big of a deal because other places had a lot rougher. Did you feel like that, or what kind of challenges did you have to face?
Well, I also was at Leon High, which was much more of a challenge in terms of violence or the name calling, etc. So I was kind of prepared to come to class, no one talking to me. I was prepared not to have friends. I was prepared to succeed in spite of. So it was not as bad as that. No, I didn't have people who spoke to me in class necessarily. I did not make the friends I probably would have in a black university, but the differences I saw were there were some blatant issues. I remember in an anthropology course where the instructor had me stand up, and he basically said that, and it was the most racist thing I've ever heard in my life. And he said, you know, the body of a black woman is closer to a black man than the body of a white woman. And I'm looking at him like, you know, and I can't say what I said to that professor, but I was never one short of opinion or words. But it was that blatant, and that wasn't everybody, because I can remember an economics professor who I just could not understand him, and I said to him, I can't understand you. And he said, well, you sit by me. So there were those professors who, you know, made sure that I was successful, but there were some pretty blatant issues around. And for me, I didn't feel a lot of that. I didn't live on campus. I had the backing of my family. I would go home at night. But for others who had to live in the dorms, it was a whole different experience. And for those who were in the sciences, we were all in departments by ourselves, basically. One here, one there, and there was never those classmates. But for me, you know, I was from my hometown, so it made it a lot easier that I'm sure than the other students who were away from their families.
And how did you end up running for homecoming queen? And did you think you were going to win? And how did you feel when you did?
Well, you know, I was part of the rabble-rousers. You know, we were always part of the rabble-rousers, you know. And of course, Fred, my brother, was here 2 years before and broke the color line athletically, and was the second president of the Black Student Union. So we were always involved politically. We made a lot of changes in the university as far as diversifying curriculum, as far as hiring African-American staff. So basically the Black Student Union, and I was really active in that. One night, I remember John Burt said, okay, we've broken down every wall except, you know, the queen. And then looked at me and Doby, you're gonna have to put on some clothes, we're gonna run you for queen. You know, because I was the hippie, the cut off jeans and the braids. So that's what I did. I had to dress up and run for queen.
And what was the reaction when you did win?
Well, you know, it was very interesting, because many of the students that I went to high school at Leon High who would never have spoken to me before, when I came to Florida State, during that period, it gave them the freedom to say, you know, I really didn't feel that way. So a lot of my high school classmates came to me and said, we're supporting you. Now, what we did, we strategically designed a campaign to win this position. We didn't look at it as a, quote, beauty situation. We looked at part of being recognized in all segments of this university and in this country that black people were beautiful, black people were smart, black people were athletic and could achieve in all of these arenas. So that was the pitch, and I'm sure that's why the homecoming queen and chief cannot run today, because they wrote it was the most politicized homecoming queen campaign ever in the history of the university. And it was something interesting when you told me that you voted for me, but you really didn't think I would win. And you know, so many people of that time, young people, had to make a statement, and that's how they made their statement. But I think it's a lesson from the past that says you may think your vote may not matter, but it does.
You know, I remember it vividly because I didn't vote for homecoming queens.
Right.
I mean, that just wasn't, that's not what I was doing.
Nobody did.
But I looked at it, and what you just said about this as kind of a message, I thought to myself, okay, everybody needs to know how the students at FSU really feel. I'm going to vote. But I never believed you were going to win.
And I don't think anybody, I mean, we felt we had a good campaign. They were not prepared for that campaign. So, but we felt very comfortable. And I know we had counters on the inside, and they said, well, Doby, you won on the first vote out of the 10, but they wanted to run the finalists anyway. In hopes maybe I wouldn't win, but they said the vote was so far ahead of other people. Yeah, and the irony of it was, I think about Karen Baker. Karen and I went to high school together. And when a lot of people I think about that were nice to me, that means they didn't taunt me, they maybe said a smile, but it was so ironic that Karen and I would end up on the same court, and she was a part of my court. And Karen is the most beautiful girl. She was Miss May Queen, Miss Cheerleader, Miss everything. And then she comes to Florida and she's on my court. So, you know, that was change. And I think that's why people voted.
Was change happening fast enough, or did you feel like at the time it was, could you, I mean, really see it and feel like it was happening fast enough, or you wanted it to happen even faster than it was?
I think during that period, change happened faster than any other period that we can look back in the history or even the country. And it was a time when young people really got together and made a difference and said, you know, I don't have a mortgage. And I encourage young people today, this is as free as you're going to ever get, to think and express and to do and to make a difference, because you don't have those other trappings to really hold you back. So I think during that period of time, there was a lot of change that happened, and we still see the remnants of that on this campus today.
So, Kiaira, you're a senior.
Yes.
You're president of the Black Student Union. Give us a little bit of a sense of your experiences and maybe contrast it with Doby's.
I think that my experience is a little different just because we have a very diverse campus, a lot of different student groups to kind of foster that sense of, you know, multiculturalism. But I do kind of, my experience compares with Ms. Doby's in the sense that, you know, I'm a first-generation student. So I know what it feels like to be the first individual to try to, you know, kind of carry the weight of the past generations and to push forward. And it can be a lot of pressure at times. But, you know, when you have that support from your family and your classmates, like, you can really make it through. And I think that Florida State was probably the best institution for me to kind of be that first.
When you hear about the things that she went through, you know, what is your reaction about what it was like back then versus what you deal with now?
Sometimes it's really hard to imagine, just because it's so different. And I know that there are sometimes still those people who might have views, but for the most part, the campus is, you know, completely different. We're a very open campus, very inclusive. So I would say that it's pretty different now.
And Doby, do you spend time talking to students?
I enjoy talking to the students. It is totally different than when we came about. They always haul the old guys back on campus to talk to them every now and then. You know, they roll the old queen out and the old athlete. And we come back and we talk to the students, but it's always a pleasure to speak with the students, and I am impressed with the quality of the students that I see, and just very impressed with the campus. And I hope they have the commitment to know that they are special, and they are meant for special things, and that's not necessarily just making money.
Kiaira, do you see that students do they actively think about the differences between the past and the present experiences at FSU?
I think we do, not in the everyday sense, but when we're celebrating like Black History Month, and, you know, we're really walking by the integration statues and we're thinking like, wow, you know, just 50 years ago, this campus was completely different. And just hearing their stories and having them come back and speak with us, I think that it really encourages us to go above and beyond and to continue to do more.
Well, let's talk about the upcoming celebration and how this idea came about. You've all been involved with it. Liz, you've been sort of one of the spearheads of organizing all of it. Tell us a little bit about this and who's involved in the planning.
Well, the idea originated with the Black Student Union. They brought the idea to the attention of the president, and we took it from there. We have a number of partners in this endeavor. I have a committee of about 30 people who have been incredibly helpful in the planning. The committee includes representatives from the Black Student Union, the Alumni Association, the Black Alumni Association, the Young Alumni Movement, Student Government Association, the Office of Multicultural Affairs. So all of those groups are working together to plan this commemorative event.
So let's take a look at some of the events. Hand in Hand Across Time, what is that?
Hand in Hand Across Time is a visual representation of how diversity is embraced by the FSU campus. It will originate at the integration statue, which is in the center of campus, and we will have about 600 people in a line to the east, about 600 people in a line to the west, and about 300 people in a line to the south. Doby Flowers, Fred Flowers, and Dr. John Payne, who will represent Maxwell Courtney, will begin the passage of a commemorative disc down the line of people. And the disc, when it reaches the termination point on the periphery of campus, will be part of a permanent obelisk that will be installed to commemorate the occasion.
Now that is going to be the event that kicks off the whole 3-day period of events, and that's on April 19th, and that's at 5:30 p.m. Is
yes,
that correct?
Check-in begins at 3:30, and the event begins at 5:30, and then after the Hand in Hand Across Time, we will have a big reception at the back at the integration statue. We will have a number of student groups. Kiaira is helping me get the student groups together who will be performing to entertain us, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
But a lot of the message is, this isn't just a statue in the center of campus. This is the entire campus, and that's why going to the ends of each campus from the statue. Do you think you'll have enough people?
I'm convinced we'll have enough people. We have reached out to churches in the area, the city, the county. Any group that I hear about, I go on the road and do my little presentation, and without fail, every group that I've talked to is so excited about this event.
And our viewers are also invited to this. Everybody in the community is invited.
We would love to, and if you're only one person, that's fine. We can combine you with other people and put you in our chain, and we'd be delighted to have everyone there.
There's there's several events going on. One of the other really big events the Black Student Union has been one of the organizers for, and that is Maya Angelou coming to town. Yes. And tell us about that event, because this is one I'm really excited to hear about.
Well, we are really excited to hear Dr. Maya Angelou speak and give us a brief lecture just on the civil rights movement and what it means to, integrate a campus and the kind of effects after that. And before that, we hope to have a short reception with some of our distinguished alumni, in which we hope to hear from our distinguished alumnus, Ms. Doby Flowers, again, and just really get a sense of what the campus was like then. Some of our past presidents come back and just let us know exactly how important this is and how important it is for us to continue on with what we're doing here at Florida State.
So Liz, what other kinds of events are planned?
Well, in addition to the events we've mentioned, on Friday night we will be recognizing Fred Flowers at the Miami FSU baseball game, which is just perfect because Fred Flowers not only was the first African-American athlete, he was the first African-American baseball player. So it's absolutely appropriate that we recognize him at the baseball game. That will be followed by a reception in the Union that is being hosted by the Black Alumni Association, and the reception is for multicultural students who are graduating.
How can we learn more about these events and what's going on with the celebration? We
have several ways. The website is probably the easiest if you have access to a computer. It's integration.fsu.edu. We also have an email that's dedicated to this event if anyone has questions. It's integration50, that's the numeric 50, integration50@fsu.edu, and the telephone number is 850-644-6626.
What other things? There's other things going on at the website too, where it's interactive.
And we have a countdown going, don't we?
We do have a countdown going, and we have we've been searching through the archives and have found a number of videos. In fact, Ms. Flowers is one of the videos that was taken in, I believe, 2004. It's posted on the website, so we have a number of those that are posted. But anyone can upload their story now. If they have photos of the era or any other information, if they just want to post a a comment about what it was like when they were here or what their dreams are for the future, the interactive website is the best way to do that.
Thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking with Doby Flowers, Kiaira McCoy, and Liz Maryanski about the 50th anniversary of the integration at FSU. If you'd like to learn more, go to integration.fsu.edu. When we come back, Dr. Barron and I will talk one-on-one about more issues in education. Welcome back to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, talking with Dr. Eric Barron, the president of the Florida State University. We've been talking about the 50th anniversary of integration at FSU. Why is it so important to have the commemoration ceremonies and events that are planned?
Well, you know, I think we should never forget what it was like 50 years ago. Certainly all across the country was this tremendous amount of turmoil, and you know, it has to be one of the most transformative issues that this country has faced. So I never want to forget. The other thing is that having been a student here 40 years ago and coming back, it's fascinating to see how different it is from, as Doby was saying, everything being the first to do this, the first to do that, and even an expectation that you wouldn't feel welcome at all, to this very diverse, welcoming campus where you can look at anybody in the eye and tell them, it doesn't matter what you look like, you're going to graduate at the same rate as anybody else and you're going to be successful. That is such a contrast that I think we need to celebrate it.
What would you like to see happen next for diversity at FSU?
Well, it's something that in my mind you never want to stop thinking about. First of all, it just makes it a richer campus to have so many different perspectives, and you know, the whole notion of really going to a global culture, really, which is the way the world is going. All the doors are open. That's the direction you want to go in, and also, but I think never forget, never stop.
The events that are planned, what's the one you're looking forward to the most, or is there several?
Well, you know, I have to think about the hands across time, hand in hand across time, because first of all, I have this sort of visual image of what this might be like. That, you know, a 600-person chain passing this plaque so that it can be embedded in an obelisk, and this sort of very visual message that as a campus, the whole campus is involved, not just a statue that marks a date of integration and the first in athletics and the first in beauty and the first in brains, but really this is just a part of the entire campus. So visually, I think that's really going to be exciting, and so that's on my mind. You know, not only that, not to interrupt you, but when the disc finally makes it to the end of the chain, there's going to be a rocket to go off so that everybody on campus knows that it's gone from the beginning to the end in each. So I haven't seen rockets go off in the campus yet.
So a little fireworks?
A little fireworks, that'll be good.
That's going to be fun. So if everybody at home sees that and they don't get out there, they'll know what they're seeing.
Yep.
The 2012 legislative session recently ended. As of this taping, nothing's been signed yet. But how did FSU and the other universities do in regards to budget?
Well, at the very last minute, although we expected to take a budget hit of one kind or another, at the very last minute, as part of the negotiations, really, after we were no longer involved in talking because the doors were closed, the state university system took a $300 million one-time cut to their budgets. And they divided that up to universities not just based on our share, our size, our student population, but how much money we had on hand. And so we took a $65 million hit. In some ways, the universities that were frugal and that were prepared had to pay the most. Not good policy. We will certainly weather it because we were working so hard to be prepared. But I worry about the message that people will sit back and say, I better not have any carry forward, because if I do, somebody will take it. And we know from business and industry that that doesn't work. People buy things they don't need.
Well, how is this going to, if this is approved as is, how is this going to affect the university and students on campus?
Well, we are working overtime to make sure it doesn't affect academic programs. And we were saving money. I mean, I might as well be honest about it. We were saving money for a bad budget. We thought there might be one more. Hopefully things are going to turn around where it doesn't happen again. It's been 6 years in a row. It's hard to take any more, but we thought there was going to be one more bad year. So we were working to be prepared. It's real money. And,
and that cushion
and
now
most
is
of it
gone.
had a plan, and now there's no cushion at all. That's going to make it tougher. On the other hand, the Senate and the House voted on a bill to create, foster the development of preeminent national universities with a set of metrics, a high level of accountability. You know, a lot of people in the press are talking about it being a tuition bill. It's not a tuition bill. It's an accountability bill. It's a focus on excellence bill. If the governor signs it, for the first time when we increase tuition, we'll have to tell our trustees and our board of governors exactly what we're going to spend it on. And the intent will be to spend it on in areas that make sure that our students are successful. So that's a very exciting development, because based on these metrics, FSU fits within that category of being preeminent.
So basically there's good news, and then there's also the fact that there most likely will be a tuition hike in the fall.
The legislature wrote into the budget a tuition increase. So they acted as if it was guaranteed. So if we don't get it, we actually get another budget cut.
Okay, thank you very much, President Barron. That's our time for now. Please join us again next month for more Issues in Education. You can watch the premiere episode of Issues in Education the first Wednesday of every month at 7:30 p.m. That means you can see the next new episode on Wednesday, May 2nd on WFSU-TV. Join us as we discuss the latest developments in higher education happening around the state and across the country. If you have questions that you would like us to address on this program, you can email us at issues@wfsu.org. Again, that's issues@wfsu.org. If you would like to see past episodes of Issues in Education, head to the President's website at president.fsu.edu. I'm Suzanne Smith with the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron, for Issues in Education. We'll see you next time.
Financial support for the production of Issues in Education is provided by the Florida State University license plate. Your FSU license plate supports scholarships for students who enrich and contribute to our communities. Special programs, gift certificates, and rebates for first-time buyers online at fsu.edu/mytag.